And then there was one. The Raiders are down to their final audition of the 2024 season. We'll jump into that plus a whole lot more as we close out the week on this Friday, January 3rd, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you, whether you're catching us wherever you find your favorite podcast or if you're checking us out on the YouTube page. We do appreciate that. The show continues to grow each and every day. Still blows my mind how many subscriptions we have on the YouTube page. Almost 17,000 subscriptions. That is wild. That is amazing. I could see that in a season where the team was doing a great job and everyone just wanted to get more information and news and notes and all that good stuff on their team because they were playing so well. But, when you're looking at a team that's 4-12, possibly 5-12 on the season or 4-13 on the season, whatever ends up happening coming up on Sunday, just to know that we have that kind of support here on the show, we definitely appreciate you. So shout out to you, Raider Nation. Also, shout out to my man, Ari, who does a fantastic job making sure that we're on YouTube looking good and sounding good each and every day. Even on holidays, he comes through like the first of the month. So big ups to my man, Ari. You can check him out. He's on Twitter, at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And, of course, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Speaking of the first of the month, with the holidays all in the middle of the week, it's so weird. It has me to the point where I don't even know half the time what day it is. I'm trying to get through it, get back through the end of the weekend and get to Monday and try to do a full reset and try to actually realize where I am. But with the first of the month coming and going, I missed. Wake up. It's the first of the month. I missed out on the hood holiday. You only get 12 chances at that bad boy, right? You only get 12 opportunities at most for a shout-out to the hood holiday, and I already missed one in 2025. So there you go. That already lets you know where we're off to. So I apologize, but I always like to shout out the hood holiday. We got a lot coming up for you on today's show. Segment number 3, we'll get to your calls and texts and close out really strong. Didn't have any calls and texts on Thursday's show. That was the crossover edition, the final one of those. David Drogemeyer, one of the hosts of Locked On Chargers, him and Daniel Wade do a really good job covering the Chargers like a glove, and got a lot of respect for David Drogemeyer, who served our country, did a hell of a job there, is doing a great job on the podcast, and he's actually the only person that I've ever done a crossover edition and we were live in studio together. We did that when I was in Central Texas at ESPN Central Texas, and he lives in Temple, Texas, and he drove up to the radio station. We were able to do the crossover edition live in the studio together. That was really cool. So shout out to David, one for as I mentioned, serving our country, and then just being a really good dude, and been rocking with the Locked On Podcast Network for a very long time. So if you want to find out more about the Chargers, make sure you tune in to that show. But we didn't have any calls and texts on Thursday's show, so we will get back to it as we close out the week really strong in segment number 3. Segment number 2, as I said, final audition, final go-around, final opportunity for the Raiders as a team to go out there and put their best play on film, right? Go ahead and put their best efforts on wax and, possibly finish the season on a 3-game winning streak where that kind of be a nice consolation prize for a season that has not been the season that they wanted it to be. So there'll be some players offensively and defensively that I'm really focused in on and hoping that they finish things off strong. We'll talk about that in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, as I always do, and we'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is PrizePicks. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use promo code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. I'll tell you more about them later on in the show, but let's go ahead and jump off into some good stuff when it comes to the Raiders. They found out on Thursday that they had 2 Pro Bowlers, and when you're a team that's only won 4 games, to get 2 Pro Bowlers, that's not too bad, right? So got to shout out to Brock Bowers. He's had an amazing rookie season, and he got awarded with that on Thursday with the information and finding out that he is, in fact, a Pro Bowler in his rookie year. So far, 108 catches, 1,144 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, he's still got opportunity to build on that coming up on Sunday based off of whatever they're able to do against the Chargers. But Brock Bowers is now the 7th rookie in Raiders history to earn Pro Bowl honors, joining Amari Cooper, who did it in 2015, C. Wood, who did it in 98, Tim Brown, 1988, Marcus Allen, 82, Ray Guy, 73, Raymond Chester in 1970. So that's a great list of players that he's joining in his rookie year to become Pro Bowlers. So shout out to Brock Bowers. Everything he's done as a number 13 overall pick by Tom Telesco, his rookie year with the Raiders, has been fantastic. And the other one, Mad Max Crosby. fourth Pro Bowl in a row. He only played in 12 games this season, at 7.5 sacks, 13.5 tackles for loss, and 5 passes defense. And I guarantee Max Crosby, and I'm sure Raider Nation, you know as well, knowing him like we've known him since he's been with the team, since he came into the league as a fourth-round pick out of Eastern Michigan, that he had a down year. And just missing games in general is a down year. He doesn't miss games. He missed 5 games this season. He's on IR. Obviously, he'll be back next year, and, they've got to work on his contract situation. He's let that be known, and they will. But it's a down year for Max, and he still gets a Pro Bowl nod. So that's pretty cool. So his 4 Pro Bowls are now tied with Chester McGlockton. Remember Big Chester? For the second most among defensive linemen in Raider history. Second most in Raider history. All right? Think about that for a minute. He only trails Howie Long. He is, and Howie did it 8 times. He is also one of 15 players in the NFL to be selected to the Pro Bowl in each of the last 4 seasons, 21 to 24. So shout out to Max Crosby. That's a hell of a feat right there, because as we know, the Raiders have had some great defensive linemen in the history of the team, and to be second, right, tied with Chester McGlockton, second most amongst defensive linemen in Raider history with his 4 Pro Bowls, is pretty stinking good. And only being behind the Hall of Famer Howie Long is not a bad place to be. So tip of the cap to Max Crosby, tip of the cap to Brock Bowers, both represented as Pro Bowlers for the Silver and Black. And, as it gets closer and closer and the playoffs start going along, we'll find out who's not going to be participating because, of injury, or because they're still in the playoffs, or they're playing in the Super Bowl. So there's an opportunity that maybe an A.J. Cole, maybe a Daniel Carlson gets added to the roster later on. But initially, those are the 2 guys representing the Raiders that make it, both Brock Bowers and Max Crosby. Also, we found out on Thursday that Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe declared for the NFL draft. Obviously, we've talked about the draft quite a bit. We will talk about the draft even more later on throughout the course of the offseason. We know that quarterback is an area that I do believe the Raiders are going to try to upgrade. I think they're going to try to upgrade by way of the draft, but who knows? Right now, they're picking at the number 8 spot. We'll see what they're doing after Sunday's game against the Chargers. They could be as low as 10, maybe as high as even 5 if things go right for them. But there's no telling that they're going to be able to get their quarterback. Maybe that's Shador, maybe that's Cam Ward, maybe that's other. But Jalen Milroe has thrown his name into the hat. I wasn't a big fan of that. I've said it many times that I thought he needed to return to school, but that's just me. It's just a guy that watches a lot of Alabama football. Matt Miller, and he was featured on this show earlier this week. Matt Miller talked about Jalen Milroe after I had asked, well, if it's not Cam Ward, if it's not Shador Sanders, who could it be? What are your thoughts on Jalen Milroe? Here's Matt Miller, just as a refresher.
I like Jalen Milroe, but, man, that is a project, Jalen Milroe is. You see the big-time plays that he makes with his feet. There are times he does things as a thrower, but if you think it's been a bumpy road for Anthony Richardson in the NFL, it's similar for Jalen Milroe as a passer. Mechanically he needs reworked. There are times there are just some big misses. So as tempting as the tools are, I would hope that he actually goes back to Alabama and continues to develop before he goes to the NFL and gets thrown to the fire, because I don't think that's going to be good for his long-term career prognosis.
Matt Miller right there, NFL draft scout analyst from ESPN, and he's a project, right? I know a lot of people believe he's the 3rd best quarterback, and he very well might be, but that's, to me, I feel like it's still a heck of a stretch. I've seen plenty of Raider fans say, go get him, go get him, go get him. Fantastic athlete, fantastic deep ball, but his intermediate to short game is not very good. He needs a lot of work. So I caution everyone. Again, anyone who's listened to this show for a while knows that I yell out, Roll Tide, every chance I get, right? For no reason whatsoever, besides I love watching Alabama football. I'll be the first to tell you, as a guy that watches each and every weekend, I believe that his best bet would have been to go back to school one more year under Kalen DeBoer. And who knows what went into that decision. Maybe he didn't have the choice. Maybe he just wanted to go to the league. Maybe he feels like he's ready. Look, whatever the case may be, he's going to wow the combine. That's for sure, because he's going to run fast. He's a super athlete. He's going to throw the ball far, right? He's going to do all that and probably show out at the combine. He very well could be a first-round pick. But I just think that he's going to be a heck of a project. So I just caution anyone who's pounding the table for the Raiders to go out and select Jalen Milroe. Finally, here in segment number 1, I thought this was really cool, and I think that you would appreciate what the great Lincoln Kennedy had to say on my radio show. And this was actually on Tuesday when he joined the show, and we were talking about a bunch of different subjects, and I brought up the conversation that I had here on the podcast about making just win, baby, and commitment to excellence really means something. And Lincoln, he bleeds silver and black. He's Raiders through and through. So I asked him at the end of the conversation, what does it mean for you to, be a Raider, to represent this organization? What has it meant to you ever since you joined the team? I thought he gave a fantastic answer that you would appreciate. Here's Lincoln Kennedy.
One of the greatest moments I had is when I got a chance to light the Al Davis torch in Oakland. And it was long overdue in my opinion, but Mark had told me time and time again it was going to happen. The reason why that was such, Q, is because since I came to this organization in 1996, I have wanted to do the absolute best of my ability at every given point to show how invaluable it is for me, how precious it is to be a Raider, a part of the Raider family. So my commentary, my analysis, when I'm asked, out in the streets around anything, I'm a Raider through and through. I bleed silver and black, and I am not ashamed to say it. I will fight for this organization. I will defend this organization when it's appropriate. I will also call out this organization, as you know me, Q,
yes,
when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So when it suits. So everything I do is for the betterment of this organization and the betterment of the Raider Nation. That's my code. That's my creed. I live by. That's why I've not taken a job anywhere else.
Just great stuff from Lincoln. I mean, really great stuff from Big Lincoln. It's always great to hear from him. Really, the whole conversation that we had on Tuesday was fantastic. I'll probably play it in its entirety on my pregame show called Q's Kickoff on Raider Nation Radio 920 coming up on Sunday, as I'll be doing the pregame show before JT the Brick and EA take over live from the torch. And actually, I'm going to do that show from the house just because there's a little scheduling conflict going on. So I'll do that from the house, and then I'll make my way to Allegiant Stadium right when it gets wrapped up. And then I'll be at the torch like I normally am until about 15 minutes before kickoff on Sunday. So if you are coming through, I'll be there. I'm just not going to be there as soon as the show's over because I'll be making my way from the house, from Studio Q, to Allegiant Stadium. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up in segment number 2, the final audition. So who am I going to be focusing on? Who do I think needs to really close this bad boy out really strong? We'll talk about that from the offense and defense side of things coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors here on the show, including the title sponsor, which is PrizePicks. And as you know, Raider Nation, it's playoff time. And if you're like me, you want to make the most of the final week of the football action, right? That's where PrizePicks comes in. You love football, want a chance to win some real money while watching the games? PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. It's real simple, right? You pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns. And for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money, you can make your pick in less than 60 seconds. Whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winning, it's clear that people are loving the platform. So here's a special offer for all Locked On Raider podcast listeners and Locked On NFL listeners in general. Download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL. It's all one word to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. And if you missed that, for the folks in the back row, download the app today. Use the promo code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. I also want to let you know about BetterHelp. And what do you want your story to be for 2025? Every January brings a new chapter, right? 365 blank pages waiting for you to fill in. If there's a part of your life you want to rewrite or a plot twist that you've been craving, why wait? Life isn't about fleeting resolutions, about taking control and becoming the author of your own story. Think of therapy as your personal editor, helping you craft the life you deserve. It's not just for crisis situations. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping strategies, improve your relationships, empower you to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're facing a challenge or just looking for personal growth, therapy is a powerful tool to help guide your journey. Whether it's learning how to set boundaries or tackling stress in new ways, therapy can help you develop skills for a better tomorrow. Even if you've never tried therapy, the benefits are clear. Finding someone to talk to and gaining fresh perspectives can make all the difference in how you navigate life's ups and downs. Right now, you can write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time for the final audition. It's 18 weeks and 17 games is what you're guaranteed. And 18 weeks and 17 games is what the Raiders are getting in their 2024 season that obviously wraps up on Sunday, which is in 2025, calendar year, but it's a 2024 season. So there's a few guys that have a lot riding on the line. Actually, everyone who suits up and takes the field is going to have something riding on the line, right? Whether that's a contract incentive, whether it's just trying to make the team, whether it's just, whatever the case may be, right? Just get another opportunity to go out there and play the game that you love, right? And coach it. That goes for coaches as well. The coaches have to go out there and put their best work on film because, look, they're coaching for their careers, not only with the Raiders, but in the NFL. And it's funny, I talked about it on Thursday on my radio show. When people say, well, these guys shouldn't suit up, these guys shouldn't play, why are these guys doing this when they're injured or when they could get injured, whatever the case may be. Think about this. What if you only had 17 cracks at doing something that you love? You only had 17 cracks in a calendar year to do something that you love. When you want to do it every time and do it to the best of your ability, like I couldn't imagine if I only did 17 radio shows or 17 podcasts in a calendar year. Now, sometimes I feel like I do 17 radio shows and 17 podcasts in a day, right? I guarantee I do about 17 radio shows by the end of the week, but sometimes it feels like it's one day and it becomes a little overwhelming. But could you imagine if something that you love to do, whatever that is, right? If you only did it 17 times a year, when you want to make the most of it, well, that's what these players and coaches, that's the challenges that they're faced, and that's the challenge they're going to face on Sunday against the Chargers, regardless of what the Chargers are playing for. They could be playing for the 5 seed. They could be playing for the 6 seed. That's all going to be based off what happens on Saturday between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. It's 5 seed, they play Houston, which is where they rather play. The 6 seed, they play the Ravens in the playoffs, which is something that they probably don't want to do. So they're hoping that they get to go to H-Town and play the 5 seed. But for the Silver and Black, there is no tomorrow. There is no 5 seed, 6 seed, 4 seed, whatever. There is no playoff. There is no postseason. What they have is the final audition. And these guys that I'm going to talk about, I believe, really need to put their best film out there and finish off this season strong. So I'll start with the offensive side of things, right? Everyone likes to score points, and the Chargers have a really strong physical defense. I'll start right with the trigger man, Aiden O'Connell, right? I mean, I have to give this dude so much credit for answering the call every time he's been called upon. Every time Antonio Pierce has said, Aiden, you're in, he's answered the call. I mean, if you think about it, this guy didn't start the season as a starter, right? Gets thrown into the mix, then he gets banged up, Minshew's back in, then Minshew gets banged up, Aiden O'Connell's back in, then he gets banged up again. Looks like he's done for the season. I was already saying it's a wrap, and, well, he only misses one game and comes back and finishes off strong. He's been getting better the last 2 weeks, in my opinion, in a major way, and what he did against the Saints, I thought looked really good. It would be fantastic if he went out there and just put in work where it's just a great performance, like similar to what he did against the Chiefs. Just make one of those, no doubt about it. And I described it like this. If you put your best work out there on film, you could be comfortable with it, whatever the results are, right? If he goes out there and throws for 300 yards, throws a couple touchdown passes, doesn't turn the ball over, leads the Raiders to a victory or even a close loss, but it just looked really good and like he was in command, he can live with the results. Right? I mean, that's what I always say. If you're going to put everything you got into something, cool. I could do a great show each and every day. And if someone says, Q, it's not really what I like. I don't really want to, put you in this position. Okay, I could live with that because I know what I put on film. I put on wax. I did everything I could. But if I ever kind of shortchange something just to get through it, get it done with it because I was a little tired or something, then I couldn't forgive myself. So Aiden O'Connell, this game is real big for. I feel like if he goes out there and really puts his name and his thumbprint on this game. As I mentioned before, I already believe that he's going to start the 2025 season regardless, but he'll give the organization more confidence that, okay, if push comes to shove, we don't get the quarterback that we think we're looking for, we can have confidence that this guy should be the starting quarterback to start 2025. Whether that means they went and got a guy in the draft that they feel they can develop later on, or maybe they get the idea that he could be that franchise guy moving forward. I have doubts about that. I think that he could definitely start the season. I actually would be shocked if he doesn't start the season. I just don't know if he's truly the franchise guy moving forward that can compete with Mahomes and Herbert and Bo Nix multiple times a year. We'll see, but at least if he goes and puts his best work out there, the organization, that's the only people that needs to be convinced, not me. The organization is all that needs to be convinced what they need to do moving forward. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver, I talked about him quite a bit. I just selfishly want to see him get 100 yards. Get 100 yards receiving, and I'll put him over 1,000 yards on the season. I've been talking about that since before the season started. I mentioned that I thought Jacoby was going to get his first 1,000-yard season. I remember saying I don't know how he's going to do it because Devontae is probably going to go for 1,000 yards. Well, how quickly that changed. And then there's the emergence of Brock Bowers, and he goes over 1,000 yards. So Jacoby's only 96 yards away. He's at 904 right now. I want to see how important it is for the organization. It clearly was important for them to get Brock his touches, his catches, and his yards. I'm hoping that it's the same thing for Jacoby. I would love to see them get him the rock early and often on Sunday and get him over 96 yards, get him over 1,000 yards for the season. I'm hoping when the game is wrapped up and we go into the locker room following the game that I can make a beeline to 16's locker and say, yeah, how does it feel to get your first 1,000-yard season? That's what I'm hoping is the end result after Sunday's game versus the Chargers. And then a guy I'm intrigued by is Dylan Lobby. I've been talking about him quite a bit, at the beginning of training camp, preseason, a little bit throughout the course of the season, and, a little bit later on since they've had so many injuries to the running back position. But Amir Abdullah didn't practice again on Thursday, so it's 2 days in a row, Wednesday and Thursday. He didn't practice. He's dealing with the foot injury that had him leave the Saints game a little bit early, so I don't think he's going to play. So to me, it feels like it's going to be an Alexander Mattison and Dylan Lobby show. And maybe he'll get 10 to 15 touches as a running back, whether that's, just handing the ball off to him or him catching a couple of passes out of the backfield. It sounds like he's going to get the opportunity to get a little bit of burn offensively. So I just want to see what it looks like. I don't have any big expectations. I don't have any big yardage or number of the touches that I want to see him. But if, he gets 10 to 15 touches, whatever the case may be, I think that's a nice little small sample size to close out his rookie year. So those are the three guys I'm focusing on when it comes to offense: Aiden O'Connell, Jacoby Myers, and Dylan Lobby. Defensively, it's a different ball game. Defensively, they've got some dudes that are out there proving some points. I'm going to start with Isaiah Palamao. He's been doing a fantastic job, and you see him getting more and more comfortable each and every week, coming off the AFC Defensive Player of the Week award for Week 16. Did a really good job in Week 17. He's been dislodging the ball, detaching the ball from the ball carrier. In Week 16, he caused a couple fumbles. In Week 17, just caused some incompletions. I just like what he's doing, and he's more comfortable, and his hits are illegal. They're not like he's in there and he's headhunting and he's getting 15-yard penalties. He's not doing anything that, say, like Jonathan Abram was doing when he was trying to be that enforcer in the back end when he was a Raider safety. He's doing it with technique, but he's doing it, and he's just, the timing is perfect. You can tell he's been in the film room studying. He understands what these players that he's going up against are looking for, and he's delivering. Isaiah is definitely in the conversation to be having a place on the starting part of the Raiders defense in 2025, right? I mean, he definitely could be one of the starting safeties in 2025. We have to see what's going to happen when it comes to Trayvon Merrick and his contract. Marcus Epps is on an expiring contract as well. Chris Smith, was a former fourth-round pick out of Georgia. Maybe he'll be involved in the mix, but I think Isaiah Palamao has really entrenched himself as a good candidate to be a starter in 2025. Love to see him finish off this season really strong. With that being said, how about the fourth-round pick, DeCam Richardson, cornerback? Forced into action when Jacorian Bennett went down. He's been out for the rest of the season. He was placed on IR, so his season's been done. And DeCam has been, he's had moments where it's looked good. He's had moments where it doesn't look good, right? But he's a rookie. He's thrown into the mix. A guy that started the season with a hamstring injury, wasn't even active on game day, then all of a sudden was thrown into the mix, and he's been a starter, right? Okay, hey, rookie, you want to play? Cool. And the thing about it is when I saw him at training camp back in Costa Mesa, which now seems like many moons ago, I guess it was, I remember talking to Ricky Manning Jr., the cornerback coach. I said, man, he reminds me of the old Seahawk type cornerbacks, the long, fast dudes, right? Remember when the Legion of Boom was something and there was a size and a speed, there was a body type that you were looking for that Legion of Boom cornerback. That's what DeCam Richardson reminded me of. And I remember saying that to Ricky Manning. He said, yeah, well, not only does he look the part, but he is the part, and he's going to be needed this year, right? I told him he's got to get ready because we're going to need him at some point. And, well, those words obviously came to fruition because he's been a starter. I would love to see him get an interception, right? He's done some good things. He's had some pass breakups. He's had some moments where he's gotten beat, but he doesn't put his head down. He doesn't, look like he's, having a bad moment. Like the difference between DeCam and Jack Jones, if something bad happens, you could tell he's kind of in a bad mood after that, right? He doesn't really clear it that well. DeCam seems like, okay, that's one play. Let's get back, right? He's more, I don't want to say level-headed because that's almost a disrespect to Jack Jones, but he's not quite as emotional as Jack. I think I'm more of an emotional type dude like Jack, right? I don't think I'm easily able to clear it. I think that, something like that were to happen to me, I'd be thinking about it too and be angry and upset. So, yeah, I probably have a little bit more Jack Jones in me than DeCam, but that's a credit to him as a rookie, what he's able to do. So I'd love to see him come up with an interception and have a really good game to close out the season on Sunday. Finally, defensively, It's a combo. K'Lavon Chaisson and Tyree Wilson. And I like to see them meet at the quarterback a couple times. I don't know what quarterback that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Justin Herbert or other, and that's fine. It doesn't really matter. I would just like to see those guys collaborate at the quarterback a few times. Chaisson, and this is the reason why. This is, again, it's me being selfish, but it's cool, right? I mean, it's every once in a while you got to be a little selfish, right? What did Kendrick say? Every once in a while you got to pop out and show them. I'd like to see K'Lavon Chaisson and Tyree Wilson pop out and show them coming up on Sunday. Chaisson has 5 sacks on the season. Tyree Wilson has 4.5. And again, I know it's a stretch, but rock with me here. Rock with me, Raider Nation. Not saying it's going to happen, but how dope would that be to see them get to either 7.5 or 8 sacks by the time the season's over, which obviously is only one more game. So they'd have to have a huge day of production on Sunday. Again, Chaisson's at 5, Tyree's at 4.5. But just throw it out there. Like one of those guys, just say Chaisson since he's closer. He were to pick up 2.5 sacks, or just say 3. Let's round it up. Let's make the math easy, right? Let's say he gets 3 sacks on Sunday. Again, not likely, but just rock with me. Max Crosby's at 7.5, and he leads the team. Just got a Pro Bowl nod. And I know he only played in 12 games. But how cool would that be to see another guy actually have more sacks than Max Crosby? Not that it's a disrespect to Max, but knowing that Max only played in 7 or 12 games and had 7.5 sacks, didn't even reach double-digit sacks because he didn't play in all the games. If he had played, there's no doubt he'd have been probably around 15 sacks when it's all said and done. But wouldn't it be kind of cool if one of those two dudes were able to be right there with Max or even lead the Raiders in sacks when it was all said and done? Again, most likely not going to happen, right? Again, that would be an awesome day at the office if, Chaisson comes away with 3 sacks or 2.5 and Tyree gets 3 sacks. I mean, again, it's not impossible, not likely. But that just, again, me being the selfish guy, it would be kind of cool to see that just as almost like a explanation point on the season. One, for Tyree, man, I'm coming along. I am coming along. I know it's slower than everyone expected when I was drafted number 7 overall, but I'm coming along. And for Chaisson, hey, look at me. I deserve to be here. Hey, Tom Telesco, I know my contract's expiring. I know you picked me up off of waivers, but yeah, I think I could be a really good addition to this team. How about we stick around for a while? How about we have some conversations about, signing me up for an extension? I just think that'd be a great explanation point on the season. It's probably wishful thinking, but that's all right. It's my thinking. And it's the final audition. So why not? If you're going to go big, right? Go as big as possible, right? Whether they say go big or go home, they might as well go big because they're going home after the season gets wrapped up, after the game hits 000 anyway. So that's what I got for you. Isaiah Palomar, DK Richardson, K'Lavon Chaisson, and Tyree Wilson are who I'm looking at defensively. Offensively, Aiden O'Connell, Jacoby Myers, and Dylan Lobby. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts are next at 707-654-4693. We'll close out the week, close out the show, hearing from you. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, which is FanDuel. And with the NFL playoffs almost being here, it's never too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, all new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. Who's going to score a touchdown first? How many points will each team score? The over-under, whatever the case may be, quarter by quarter. There's so many different options, so many player prop bets that you can go out there and chase. They've got many different ways for you to win a whole lot of money. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Right now, the Chargers 4.5-point favorites as they head to Allegiant Stadium on Sunday, taking on the Raiders. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Start things off with a call from T. Wolvie, calling from Nashville, calling to talk about GM Tom Telesco and the fact he's not getting his flowers and wants to give him some props. Here he is, T. Wolvie in Nashville.
What's up, Q? This is T. Wolvie here in Nashville. Just wanted to say Telesco's not getting his flowers, and we really, really need to look at his past drafts to understand that man puts talent in the building. Whatever happens with the head coaching situation, Telesco is gonna make good picks, and they're not irrational. We're not moving up and moving down or doing all these things. If he thinks Cam or Shador is really the guy, which I highly doubt he does, then we'll see what he does. But they've been building this thing silently all year, not making crazy moves, no free agent grabs. They didn't move up in the draft last year, which, might be the best quarterback class we've seen in a very long time. But Bowers was sitting there, and everybody criticized that pick. And look who we got out of that. We're probably going to be a generational tight end. So I'm really just calling in to say that, you and I used to agree and still do that the Ravens used to draft the right way, which is whoever's on your board the highest, you take them. If you're not drafting for need, then you're actually going to build a quality football team. And I think that he's always been that guy, and it's going to be a slow burn, and he's going to do it. Now, I'm not ruling out a trade. I'm looking at Kyler Murray in Arizona, and that might not be popular with Raider Nation, but he's got all the talent in the world. He might just be burnt out there. So I say all that to say, man, I know we're impatient as a fan base, and I just feel like it's finally building the right way. With the first 4 picks he took in this draft, we got a good foundation. So I just want to give props to Telesco again, and it sucks right now because we're not good, but it's going to get better. As long as we don't make irrational moves and Mark Davis isn't firing everybody, we're not clearing house again, none of those guys in that locker room want that, then I think 2 or 3 years from now, we'll look back and say, man, that we actually did it the right way. So just wanted to say that. Hope all is well with you. Happy New Year, Raider Nation. See you.
Thanks, T. Woolley, for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, I think Telesco has done a really good job, right, in gathering really good talent in his career. And his first year with the Raiders, he definitely did that, right? I mean, he allows the board to fall to him. He's not a guy that's traded up or traded back, but he just gets the best player available. 3 starters for sure. The 4th in Cam Richardson, who's been forced into action. He's growing. He's developing. We'll see how that goes. There's a good chance that maybe this team doesn't grab a quarterback, and that's why I talked about segment number 2. Let this organization know, if you're Aiden O'Connell, that, hey, I can do this. You don't have to go and force the issue and just grab a quarterback just to grab a quarterback, which, by the way, I don't think Tom Telesco would do anyway. He didn't do it in 2024. I don't think he'd do it in 2025. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. But, yeah, Tom Telesco's done a really good job in selecting Brock Bowers number 13 overall, as not only has he broken many records, but he also is a Pro Bowler now. Yeah, that was an outstanding pick by Tom T in his first year with the Raiders. Up next, got a text from Mike in Santa Clarita. He says, hey, Q, it's Mike from Santa Clarita, California. Just wanted to say, can't hate the win. My son, who I brainwashed, a Raiders fan, looked at me excited and said, Dad, they won again. LOL, man. So I did want to root for the Raiders to lose out, but just can't be mad at a win. That being said, just wanted to reach out and ask why we're giving up on O'Connell so quickly. He has played about 15 games with 3 or 4 different offensive coordinators and has shown growth. Not saying he could be the franchise quarterback, but if we're talking about giving AP another year, then why not pick up the best player available, Dylan Gabriel in the second, and let Aiden O'Connell, with a competent offensive coordinator, see what he does. Use some money, build the trenches, because O'Connell has shown some ability to move in the pocket, isn't just some statue that people claim him to be. I don't know right now, seeing if the fans want to backup stamp Aiden O'Connell. I'm stamping AP, not a head coach. But if people are willing to give a second year after a season sample size that lets O'Connell play at least more than 15 games before we crown him the Raiders backup. That's Mike in Santa Clarita. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. I don't think anyone's writing off O'Connell. I think that's a huge misconception. I don't think anyone, as I so talked about in segment number 2, that I just think he needs to go out there and prove, and kind of put that stamp of approval of who he is as the Raiders quarterback. He has been inconsistent so far with the team. Now, some of that's on him, some of that's on the team. I don't think anyone's giving up on him, though. Just because you're saying that you could want more doesn't mean that you're giving up on him. I'm not saying cut the guy. I'm not saying trade the guy. I'm saying that he probably will start in 2025, and I'm okay with that. And he might have to be the starting quarterback. They might not go get another guy. Dylan Gabriel, that might just be getting another guy just to get another guy. He's a 5'11" quarterback. He's all right, right? I don't think he's anything too special. He does have a lot of experience, so that's a positive. But, right, unless you're doing a true upgrade and you feel like you're getting a true upgrade, then O'Connell's fine, right? And that's it. Again, I don't think anybody, at least I know I'm not throwing him away. He has shown more mobility as of late. He's never going to be mistaken as a guy that's going to run around the yard and pick up a ton of yardage with his feet. He's never going to be that guy. It's just not. But he does look more comfortable in Scott Turner's offense, and that's why I think that finishing off this last game really strong would be great for him, right? The one thing that he does have to do is have availability, though. I mean, multiple times this past season, he's been out due to injury, right? He hurt his hand. He hurt his thumb on his throwing hand, and so that hurt him. Then he went out. He was on IR for that period of time, and then he came back when he was forced into action, and then he got hurt again. So he's got to find a way to stay on the field. That's the other thing, right? I mean, I say it all the time. I know people hate it, but your best ability is availability, and that's the truth. So, yeah, I don't think anyone's giving up on him. And if they are, well, I mean, that's just because I guess they want more. But he's definitely a capable starter, regardless of if that means he's a long-term franchise guy. Just like you said, not saying he can be the franchise guy, but, you know, if you're talking about giving AP another shot, then why not Aiden O'Connell? That's fine. I have no problem with that. I mean, hell, he's under contract, right? He's got a 4-year deal. I don't expect him to go anywhere in that time period, right? The big question is, can he be the dude that lead this team to where they need to go in the long haul? That's the big question. It's not if he's not capable. It's how far is he capable of taking you is the big question that still remains to be answered. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from 6'7" from West Side of Phoenix. He's calling about a potential new head coach if, in fact, AP does get let go on Monday, and who he thinks might be a good replacement. Here goes 6'7", getting a little ahead of things from the West Side of Phoenix.
Q, Raider Nation, happy New Year's Eve. It's like 3:50 in the morning. I'm on the way to work. I've been thinking about new coach. If it's not AP, is it Vrabel? And what about pairing him up with the enemy? I think there would be a dynamic duo. And I'd like to see what would happen with that. I'm not sure what red flags are up on the enemy and why he hadn't even had any head coaches interviews or what red flags are on him, but just interested in hearing what your thoughts are on that. Again, Eric Bieniemy, OC, Mike Vrabel, head coach. It's your boy 6'7", West Side of Phoenix. I'm out.
Thanks for the call. I mean, Vrabel's going to be in high demand, right? His name is going to be associated with every head coach job opening, right? His name is already associated with the Raiders due to the fact that, you know, Tom Brady's there and obviously they have a really good connection. We'll see what happens. If AP is let go, and we'll obviously find out sooner rather than later, I wouldn't be surprised if they go with the offensive-minded head coach. Normally, if they're a defensive guy and they get let go, normally they flip over to the offense. If it's an offensive-minded guy, they'll have a tendency to go to the defensive side of things. So I know Vrabel's name is attached to the Raiders all the time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think he's going to have plenty of options this offseason during the coaching carousel. So we'll see how that goes. As far as Bieniemy goes, he has some old stuff that people talk about all the time. I think that he must not really interview very well. He's had interviews for head coaching jobs, and he just doesn't get him. This past year, he was at UCLA with head coach Reuben Foster as the OC, and their offense was ranked 117th. So that's not very good. He was gone after a year, and his agent said that it was a plan all along to do 1 year and then be gone. So, okay, there's that. But he's currently in Washington. He's an offensive analyst at Washington for the Huskies under current head coach Jed Fish. So I'm sure he could probably get talked out of that job, but that's where he's currently at. So I just don't know if there's a whole lot of excitement and juice and energy around Eric Bieniemy anymore. It sounds like when he was in KC, there was a lot of juice around him. And after he left KC, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of juice around him. So thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. Just got time for a couple more. This text is from 561 Raider. It says, hey, Q, 561 Raider. I wanted to start off by saying that I hope you had a happy and safe new year, and we appreciate you and the work that you put in every day. I want to bring up a point that people seem to be forgetting when talking about tanking for a quarterback. The Chiefs, as much as we hate to admit it, had a very complete team before drafting Mahomes. They hadn't had a losing record since 2013. The reason I bring this up is because they have mastered putting together a winning team and mentality where a quarterback as talented as Mahomes can step in and elevate them. Yes, we may have missed out on the quarterback in the first round the last couple seasons, but if we build the team up the right way, we could draft a quarterback that helps elevate the level of play. Hoping that makes sense when I read it out loud, and sorry for the lengthy text. It's from 561 Raider. No, that makes all the sense in the world. Appreciate the text. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, they were winning their division when they decided to make the big trade all the way up to number 10 to go get Patrick Mahomes, right? They said, hey, this is good, but we can make it great, which kind of goes back to the conversation of Aiden O'Connell when people say, well, why are you giving up on O'Connell? It's not giving up, right? It's just like the Chiefs, and the Raiders aren't built like the Chiefs, and they're not winning consistently like the Chiefs were. But even the Chiefs said, yeah, this is great with Alex Smith, but we need a little bit better to get over the hump. So they went out there and they made the big move for Mahomes. So there's a good chance that the Raiders try to go and address the quarterback position this offseason, but they might do just exactly what you said, draft the best player available, stick with building the team, and then when they feel like they're right for where they need to be, then make a move to get over the hump. Again, I'm glad you brought that up because it goes to kind of respond to anyone who thinks that, people are just poo-pooing on Aiden O'Connell. That's not the case. I think that a lot of people, including myself, feel like he has a certain ceiling, and I don't know if that ceiling is going to be high enough to get the Raiders where they need to be, which is ultimately into the playoffs and make a run, right? I think that he could definitely get the Raiders into the playoffs, but can he compete consistently with Mahomes, with Herbert, with Knicks? And I know Knicks is a small sample size, but with Allen, with Burrow, with Lamar, right? I mean, with the quarterbacks in the AFC, the arms, even Tua, when he's on his A game, he looks good. It's tough. It really is. It's not an easy task, and so there's going to obviously be questions on what they can do and what they can't do, and so that's the big question when it comes to Aiden O'Connell. But 561 Raider, they very easily could do that. That is for sure. Got one more call that we'll get to. Raiders way out of the 805. He's calling to talk about what he'd like to see on Sunday versus the Chargers, and talks about loyalty to Raider Nation, and talks a little Antonio Pierce as well. Here he is, Raider way out the 805.
Hey, Q, it's Raiders way from the 805. I'm new to the crew. Called a couple times, never got through. It's all good. Hopefully, things could change. You know what I mean? I think we could pull it off with the Raiders against the Chargers. I was just talking to my coworker at Atlantic Falcons fan, saying, and he goes, I give Antonio Pierce the most upright, man, because for people, the fans just want us to lose. You made it crystal clear the last time, saying that, for me, I played football, high school. I never wanted to go losing into a game, and to know that, it's his first year, you know what I mean, going in there and losing so many games, but still not giving up. This just shows. And everybody that calls in and says, hey, man, we need to lose, we need to tank, a lot of these people don't understand the loyalty, maybe, you know what I mean, of having a wife, a value, you know what I mean? Just because my wife messes up dinner a couple times doesn't mean I'm going to say, throw in the towel and just say I need another wife. You know what I'm saying? So the loyalty stays to the Raider Nation. I was the same as you, Antonio Pierce, all the way. It's his first year, you know what I mean? And to go and not tank just to show it is utmost respect for Antonio Pierce. And, I love what you do. Hopefully, we could at least get this dub the last week against the Chargers, and rebuild next year to see who we could do with our quarterback. You know what I mean? But Raider Nation, just win, baby. Thank you. Raiders way out.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. Thanks for being new to the show as far as getting in and getting your feedback on. I'd love to see the Raiders finish out the season on 3-game winning streak, right? It'd be nice to see them rewarded at the end of the season with, at least a tip of the cap to the players, the hard work they've put in. It's not a participation trophy, but, look, the season's been terrible. They could have said 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Instead, they've been working really hard. They're currently riding a 2-game winning streak. It'd be great to see them finish on a 3-game winning streak. The worst that they could be picking is at number 10 overall. So it's not much different from where they're at right now at number 8. So I'm not really worried. I don't think anybody should be worried about a draft pick at this stage of the game. Clearly the Raiders aren't, right, as they're currently riding a 2-game winning streak. So thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. And we'll see what happens with Antonio Pierce. We'll know sooner rather than later. We'll close out with this text from 725 Las Vegas Raiders. Says, good evening, Mr. Q. Happy New Year. I have a lot to say, but I'll keep it short. Continuity, isn't that the main word everyone uses? If so, then why are we looking for a quarterback? I think AP broke that by giving Minshew the start. I think we have a quarterback in O'Connell. I have faith in O'Connell. All we need to do is build the offensive line. Continuity. The line played the last 6 games together with the same guys together, and I think they got better in helping us win 2 games in a row. O'Connell has a strong arm and is throwing balls on a dime 95% of the time. But for the most part, give him time to stay in the pocket and move a little. He moves the ball well, I see. I believe you when you said the money we paid is the reason why Minshew got the start. I think O'Connell is better than Minshew, but I think the first coordinator was horrible. Again, I think we have a quarterback. If we can keep the Turners and Aiden O'Connell together, again, continuity. Thanks, Q. 725 Las Vegas Raider, and I'm out. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. And again, that's not a bad thing. And the offensive line, they were together for about 4 or 5 weeks in a row, and then Jordan Meredith missed a couple games. And so Jackson Powers-Johnson actually slid back over to the left guard spot with Andre James getting back in the center. So it wasn't necessarily the same exact line, but this is the line that's won the last 2 games with Andre James at center and with Jackson Powers-Johnson at the left guard spot. So there is a little continuity there. I think these guys just need to be able to put their best foot forward. The offensive line is definitely something that needs to be addressed in the offseason, continue to build that bad boy up. And whoever the quarterback is under center, whether it's Aiden O'Connell or anyone, needs to be protected. And if you're going to have a run game, like you want to have a run game, like Antonio Pierce wants to run the ball, or any other coach is going to want to run the ball, you're definitely going to have that offensive line be really solid. So that's definitely something that Tom Telesco is going to be tasked with doing this offseason, whether that's going out in free agency and bringing in a guy or drafting a guy or a combination of the two, right? Whatever they need to do to get the right pieces in place to build that offensive line, I'm with you 100%. So we'll see. Continuity, I believe, is a big deal, right? And I think that the coaching staff, the continuity would be great to keep them in place. And I don't think Aiden O'Connell's going anywhere. And I'm not saying just to replace him. I'm saying, just, again, I said I think he's going to start 2025 season, just like I thought he was going to start 2024 season, and he didn't. So we'll see what happens this offseason and see what direction the Raiders go. But there's a strong chance because Tom Brady has said he doesn't want a rookie quarterback to start. And he said it multiple times that Aiden O'Connell gets to start regardless of whether he's a bridge quarterback or the true franchise quarterback. There's a good chance he starts in 2025. So that's going to do it for today's show. Went a little longer than supposed to, but what's new, right? We're starting off 2025 with a bang. Clearly, we're doing things the right way around here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. But no, in reality, Raider Nation, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy Week 18 action. I said it back in Week 1. Before you know it, this bad boy will get wrapped up. And, well, before you know it, this bad boy is going to get wrapped up as the Raiders play their final game of the season versus the Chargers, the team they started it off with, coming up on Sunday. And, of course, we'll be here to talk about that and plenty more as the offseason gets underway starting on Monday. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family, enjoy your weekend, and most importantly, just win, baby.